Hello everyone, hope you're all fine. It's 2025, so you know what it means. It's time for a Blender car animation tutorial for complete beginners. Every year, I try to share a new car animation with its full tutorial for people who are just starting with Blender. This time, we are going to create something very simple, which requires minimum resources, but still looks pretty good if you ask for my opinion. Even if you have a low-end computer, you will be able to render this animation with no issues. And of course, I will provide all the necessary assets, so this course will be entirely free. It means that if you always wanted to learn car animation in Blender, you're in the right place at the right time. For the topics, we are going to cover object import, car animation on a path, road creation, camera animation, scene setup, how to add traffic, lighting, render settings, and composition in DaVinci Resolve. I'm excited because we will create something fun and rewarding, but we got a lot to cover, so let's dive in. First, we need a car. I just created a video to show you how to grab the best free cars models out there. The link will be in the description. Another option would be to simply download my C63 AMG for free. Yes, you heard it well. My car is entirely free. It's a professional car, already rigged, so ready for animation. For this project, I used this car from the traffic add-on. It's a paid add-on, but you get nearly 80 vehicles with license plates, scratches, dust, infinite colors, etc. I think it's worth the price. I will put the link in the description. But once again, you have free professional options if you want to follow along. So let's say you're using my C63 AMG. To import the car, you click on File, Append. You grab the blend file you have downloaded, Append. You go in Object, you press A on your keyboard to select everything and append. And here you will have a beautiful car in your scene. Let's delete the default cube and do not rotate this car because we need it to face the -Y axis. Before we continue, to keep things organized, let's create a new collection. So right click, a new collection, and you name it ND for not needed. You select all the items starting with WGT. So you click and shift and click again, M on your keyboard to move those items, and we're gonna move them in the ND collection. And you click this little checkbox to deactivate those items. Okay, so we have something clean. And let's do the same for the car. So right click, new collection, and let's name it, for example, hero car or main car, whatever you want. You click on car rig, right click, select hierarchy, that will select everything under this item, and M to move and hero car. So now we have something clean. I will delete my focus so we are on the same page, and we can delete the light as well if you have one. Nice, and now everything is clean. We can continue with the car animation just after this quick shout out. The Ride is my Blender car animation course created for beginners and intermediate users who want to get into car animation. Now you get 85 videos and 13 hours of training. And of course, everything is included. The cars, the assets, the add-ons, everything you need to follow along. You will also get my personal help on a private channel on Discord in case you're stuck or you need advice. For the animation, let me explain the big picture. The idea is we are going to create a line that we will call a path. We will attach our car to this path, and then we will animate our car along this line. So if the line is going like this, our car will do the same. If it's doing that, our car will follow the path that we will design. And don't worry if it's not clear, it will be in a few seconds. So when we will manage to animate our car, there will be no wheels rotation or steering movements. For those, we will need a free add-on called Rig Car, created by David Gallery, and it will do all those animations for us. Because trust me, you don't want to spend hours to do that manually. But the thing is, this add-on is not updated since Blender 3.6, I guess. So we will have to use a fixed version I have updated myself. The link will be in the description. If you want, you can download it right now. We will install it later in this video. Okay, now you have the big picture. We can start to animate our car. So let's create this line. And from now on, we will call it the path. So Shift A, you go in curve and path. And here is the path. Let's move this path in the main collection here. Let's rename it main path just to keep things organized. G and X to move the path on the X-axis. And let's say we want to go in this direction. Okay, so we need to rotate this path, but we have no idea of its direction. So to fix that, you click on the path, you press Tab to go in edit mode, or you click here. Edit mode. In edit mode, you click on this little icon, and here you activate the normals. So now we can see the arrows of the path. Okay, so we know that actually it's going in this direction. So we need to rotate it this way. So you go back in object mode. I will press tab to do that. With the path selected, you press N to display these panels. And you go in item. And here for the rotation, you do rotation on the Z axis. Okay, but we know that if we press tab again, you can see the arrows. So we want to go this way. So it's going to be minus 90 degrees. And you can press tab if you want to be sure. And now let's do some, first, let's do something super easy to test our animation principle. So you select the path, you press S to scale it, and I will scale it for something like that. It's just a test, so you can do whatever you want. And then Control A on your keyboard and apply all transforms. It's a crucial step if you want to avoid weird deformations on your car when it's following the path. And now you click on the rig, you go in pose mode with Control and Tab, or you can select here pose mode. Then you select the blue rig, this one. Here you click on bone constraint, the blue bone, okay, not the green one, the blue bone. You click here, add bone constraint. We select follow path. Here in target, we select our main path. So you will have your car around here. And let me show you an issue you might have. Okay, so maybe you will have this issue where you've done exactly like me, but your car is not exactly on the path. So to fix that, you can be in pose mode, it's okay. You click on object properties here, this icon, and you remove any values. I mean, you put 0 on any of these 6 values, okay? You need to have 0 everywhere. So here, for example, I will put 0 in Y. Now my car is perfectly on the path. We can go back in bone constraint here. We want our car to follow this path, so we click on follow curve. Perfect. Then we will use this offset to animate the car. But if we check it now, you can see that we can input infinite values in this offset, and that's not good for the animation. It's too complicated to handle. So instead, we are going to check this box, fix position. And now look at this. We can only go from 0 to 1. And in any case, we stay on the path. And the beauty is, it will be the case whatever is the size of the path. But there's still something off. The car is facing the wrong direction because we want the forward axis to be minus Y. So for that, you just click here on the forward axis section, minus Y. So now if I go from 0 to 1 with the offset factor, we have the correct direction. Okay, that's it. Our car is ready for its first animation. So in your timeline, you go in frame 1. You select the blue rig, you move your mouse cursor on the offset factor and you press I on your keyboard. That will insert a keyframe on the timeline for this bone, for this blue bone. And then let's say we go on frame 80 and here you go to 1 with the offset factor. You move your mouse here again and you press I again. That will insert a second keyframe. Now we can go back in frame 1 and we can check the magic. We press spacebar and congratulations, we have our first car animation done. It's pretty ugly, but it's working fine. And there is one thing I want to cover now. If you check the animation, you will notice that the car is not going at the same speed. It's accelerating at the start and slowing down at the end of the path. I think that's the natural behavior for a car animation, but in our case, our project starts when our car is already driving. So instead, we want a constant speed. And to do that, you click on the blue rig, you press A to select all the keyframes, right-click, interpolation mode, and you choose linear. Now if you check the animation, we have a constant speed and this is exactly what we want. Okay, we go back in object mode. Then from there, you select the path and you press tab on your keyboard to go in edit mode like we did before. And let's add some points on our path. You select this last point, you press E on your keyboard to extrude and Y on the Y axis. And you do something like that. And let's do another one, E again, and maybe a third one, E and Y. Okay, you don't have to be precise, it's just a test. And then we can go back in object mode. So my path now is around 77 meters. Let's go for 90 meters just for the example. Don't worry if you don't have the same value. You can just put 90 or just use your values, that's all right. Now let's talk about speed because it's very important for the realism of the animation. And we'll need to do some math together, but don't worry. I have created a tool for you, but I think it's important that you understand why we are doing this. In Blender, let's check a value together. You click here in Output Properties, and here we have the frame rate of our project. So it's 24 FPS. It means that we display 24 images for each second. If you remember, our animation is composed by 80 frames. 80 frames divided by 24 is 3.3 seconds. So our car is doing those 90 meters in 3.3 seconds. But we are not use of the meters per seconds. We would prefer to display the speed in kilometers per hour. For that, we will use this file. The link will be in the description. You will not be able to edit it, so you will need to go in a file and create a copy for you, so you can do whatever you want. So how to use this file? The actual project FPS is 24, that's correct. The total animation frames we have is 80 in our case, and the path length is 90 meters. So actually the speed of our car is 97 kilometers per hour. So that's pretty much what we want for our project, something around 100 kilometers, that's perfect. But currently the 80 frames is a bit short for my taste. It's only 3 seconds of animation. I would prefer my project to last the entire 250 frames. So let's just do that in Blender. If you're not in pause mode, you click on your rig and you go back here in pause mode, or you press Ctrl Tab, it's up to you. You click on the blue rig, and here we have the keyframes we have created for the car animation, if you remember, okay? But now we don't want 80 frames of animation, we want 250 frames of animation. So you select the second keyframe. Be careful to not select all the keyframes. I just want to move the second keyframe. So you select this keyframe and you drag and drop it to frame 250. So now our animation will be 250 frames. So that's roughly 10 seconds divided by 24. Yeah, 10 seconds, 0.4. But now if we check the animation, we have this. Our car is very slow. And you get it, it's normal because now it takes around 10 seconds to do the 90 meters. So its speed is now, if we change the total animation frames to what we used, 250, 31 kilometers per hour. So to fix the speed, let's change the length of our path. If I change the path length to 200 meters, I will have a speed of 69 kilometers per hour. This is not what we want. We want something 100. So let's try 300. Okay, that's perfect. So we want a path length of 300 meters. In Blender, let's go back in object mode. You select the path and you change its dimension to 300 meters. And now we know that our car is driving around 100 kilometers per hour. Okay, we have the correct length for our path and the speed for our car. We can now work on the shape of our curve to make it more interesting and to do some crazy stuff with our car. So you click on your path and you go in edit mode by pressing tab on your keyboard. And here we have those different control points that we can use to shape our path. To move a point, you select it, and G to move, and Y to move it on the Y axis. And I will do that for a few points around here. And let's take this point, for example, and you will press G on your keyboard and X to move it on the X axis. And here, if you move it like that, that will create a little curve here. And we can do the same around here. If you're missing some points, if you need more points, what you can do is you select some points like this, 3 points, and you go in segments and subdivide. It will add more points. And I will add a curve on the other side, for example, G and X, something like that. And if you want the curve to be longer, you can move this point, G and Y. So now the curve is longer. And when we are there, let me show you something. So I move my car around here. And now you can see what I was talking about earlier. There is a deformation with my car. So if I select the path and I go back in edit mode, I move that here so you can really see the issues. Here you can see the issues. There is a deformation on my car because we changed the length of the path, but we didn't apply the transform like I told you before. So let's do that now. You select your path, Control A, apply all transform. And now we don't have the deformation anymore. Okay, now we can press spacebar and our car is nicely following those curves. That's perfect. And I really encourage you to create your own path and curves. But if you really want to use the path I use for this animation, I will put the link to download it in the description. And let me show you how to import it if you choose to use my path. So you download the blend file for the path and then you go in File, Append. You click on the blend file I have provided. You go in Object. You search for path. You select the path and you click on Append. And here you will have the path I did use for my animation. Then all you have to do is to change the path for your car to follow. And to do that, you click on your rig. You go back in pause mode, so Control Tab. You select the blue rig. You go here in Bone Constraints. and you change the main path for the new path, this one. And now you will have exactly the same animation, but you will be using the path I have provided. Okay, now we can delete this path. We're going to move this path to the collection here, and now we can name it main path, this one. And just one thing, be careful because my path is 350 meters. It means that the speed of my car is 120 km per hour. If it's good for your project, that's okay, but if you need it to go slower, you can just use 300 frames, for example, instead of 250. For my case, I will leave it like that because faster is always better for a 3D car. Now the next step is to create our first camera animation. This is not our final camera animation, but the first one, and it's there to mainly help us to check our car animation and later our wheels and steering animation. So we are in object mode and let's go in frame 1. You go behind your car somewhere like this, maybe a little bit on the side, and you press Ctrl, Alt and 0. That will move your camera view to the position where you are. You select your camera and you press I to insert a keyframe at frame number 1. If you move in the 3D viewport, you will go out of the camera view. Now you can go at frame 250 and you will do the same. You click on your car, you press numpad period to focus on the object you have selected. And let's make the view maybe like this. Ctrl Alt 0, we do the same. You select your camera and you press I on your keyboard to add a second keyframe. If you want to reframe your shot where you are in the camera view, the issue is if you move, you will go out of the camera view. So you press 0 on your numpad to go back in the camera view. And to be able to reframe it, you go in a view here and you tick camera to view. So now if you move your view, you will move the camera view directly. Now that we have the animation ready, you can press 0 to go back in the camera view. You click on your camera, so we have all the keyframes there. And let's test the animation. I will press spacebar. Okay, the issue is our car is way faster. And we have this issue because we did use an interpolation mode linear for the car animation. But by default, for the camera animation, we have a Bezier for the interpolation mode. So we have to change the camera animation as well to a linear. So you click on your camera, you press A to select all the keyframes, right click, interpolation mode, and you choose linear. Okay, now if I press play, it's way better. My camera is following the car. And maybe I will change the view to viewport shading so we don't have this weird artifact. Okay, nice. Now we have the correct camera animation and our camera is following our car. And the first thing that we noticed thanks to our camera animation is the wheels and steering, which are not animated. So let's deal with that now using the RigoCar add-on. As I said before, the link to download the add-on will be in the description. So you have the file downloaded on your hard drive. It should be a zip file. And to install the add-on, you go in Edit, Preferences, you click on Add-ons, you click on this little icon and install from disk. So you should have a zip file like this one, RigoCar Fix, and you select the file and you click Install from disk. You search for RigoCar here and be sure to have the add-on activated with this checkbox. When you have the add-on installed, you click on the rig here and you press N on your keyboard if you don't have those tabs. Okay, N, and you look for RigoCar. You will not see the RigoCar add-on if you don't have the rig selected, so you need to select the rig first. And in the RigoCar add-on, you click on Bake Car Steering. Okay, and bake with rotation. Okay, so now if I press 0 to go in the camera view to check the animation and I press spacebar, now you can see that we have the wheels and the steering is animated as well. And everything was automatic. Okay, perfect. And now we can deal with the road creation. Now is the time to create our road. So be sure to be in object mode. From there, you press Shift A and Mesh Plane. You press a numpad period to zoom on this plane. Let's rename it road. And I will move it in the main collection. So M collection. With the road selected, you press N on your keyboard and you go to item here. And we change the dimension of the plane. So 14 meters for X and 7 meters for Y. Let's rotate it 90 degrees on the Z axis. Now we need to texture it. So we go in shading. Here, be sure to be in material preview mode. Okay, this one. You select the plane and you click new to create a new material for the road. Actually, we only have a principal BSDF, and from there we can change the color of the road if you want. But of course, this is not how we are going to do. In the description, I will share with you a link to download this road.zip file. You will have several images in it, and let me show you how you can use those images to texture the road. First, in Blender, we are going to activate a Node Wrangler. It's a free add-on. So you go in Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and here you search for Wrangler and you activate this add-on. It's normally already there in Blender. You just have to activate it. Then you can close this window. Then in the shader editor, you select the principal BSDF and you press Ctrl, Shift, and T. That will open a window. And here you search for the images you have downloaded. Don't forget to unzip this file to have access to all those images. And from there, you select the roughness, the normal, and the base color. You can hold the control to select different files and you validate here, and boom, everything is done automatically by Node Wrangler. We have a nice road with puddles. Okay, now we can go back in a layout, and if you want to see the texture of the road, you can also go here in material preview mode, so Z and material preview, or you click on this little icon. And one thing we didn't do since the beginning of the tutorial, and it's very bad, I highly recommend that you use Ctrl and S to save your project as often as possible. Alright, so now we have our beautiful piece of road, but of course it's not covering our path. So let's do that. First, we are going to move the road, so maybe somewhere around here. So G and Shift Z to move only on the X and Y axis. There are several ways we could use to duplicate this road, but what I like to do, because it's easy to change your mind after if you're not happy with the result, we can use an array modifier. So you select the road and you click here in modifiers, add modifier, and you search for array here. And boom, now you see it's like a copy paste of your road, but actually it's going on the wrong direction. So here on the X factor, we're going to replace 1 by -1. So now it's going in the right direction, and we can raise the count to maybe something like 20. Is it covering the road? Yes, it is, but because we might have a camera behind the car, let's go for 40. So we have some room. In my video, I'm using a 4 lanes road, so let's do that. You click on Add Modifier here, and you search for Array again. And here, this time, we don't want on X, but we want on Y, so 1 on Y. And let's move the road a bit, somewhere around here. And one thing we can do to be sure that our car sticks to the road, you click on the rig, you go in the Rig a Car add-on, you go on Ground Sensors, and here, for the ground, you select the road for all the different sensors. This is really helpful if we decide to make some modifications on the road, like bumps and stuff. We are not going to do that in this video, because we are going to use the camera to simulate this. But in some cases, and in the previous tutorials, I did use some modifications on the road. I will press 7 on my numpad to go in top view, and I press spacebar to check that if my car is doing something nice. Yes, it is. So it's going the other side of the road. Okay, perfect. So my car stays on the road, and this is what we want. And I like the fact that our car is crossing those limits, because it's doing crazy stuff, so it will be more interesting for the animation. A straight line is very boring, but here with our path, we have some very interesting animation to do with our car. Okay, perfect. Our road is finished. And before we continue, let me show you an add-on I'm working on. So I click on the rig here. I go in my add-on Car Pro, and I select an animation, let's say animation number 2, and boom, everything we have done is just one click. The animation, the path, the car animation, the wheel rotation, the steering. I even added some bumps animation on the car, as you can see. So yeah, this is an add-on I'm working on, and I hope it will be live soon. So here you can see, you can also make a drift, automatic drift. So yeah, stay tuned for this add-on. Now let's add this barrier to our scene, and you will find this asset in the description. And for your information, this asset is coming from my city pack. The link will be in the description. So let's place this barrier. I will go for a 90 degrees rotation. and move it around here next to the road. I think it's okay. And we'll do the same for the array modifier. So array and minus x. This one, I will go something like 200, I think. Yeah, maybe it's too much. 200 might be enough. Yes, 200 is good. And let's name it like barrier left and Alt D to duplicate. And this one is right, barrier right. And to keep things organized like we did before, right click, new collection, road. And let's move everything concerning the road in this new collection, road, and the barriers as well. So M and the road. So we have everything concerning the road in this collection. Well, that's it guys for this first part. This video is already a long one. In the next part, we will deal with the camera animation, the buildings, the traffics, etc. And of course, I will share with you more free stuff to follow along. So allow me a couple of days to finalize part 2. Don't hesitate if you have questions. I talk to you soon. Bye bye.